with coverage you can count on. This is the Erie News NOWCAST.
Good afternoon, I'm Elspeth Meisner, and thank you for joining us for your Erie News Now Weekend Nowcast. We start today with local news as the man who shot and killed a Wendy's manager in Edinboro last year will spend the rest of his life in prison. It took the jury just 1 hour on Friday to find Marquise Lampley guilty of second-degree murder. He killed 22-year-old Alex Kavanaugh during an attempted robbery of the Edinboro Wendys in January of 2020. Lampley represented himself during the trial, even though his lawyer suggested they trust him. But his plan didn't work. The jury found him guilty of more than a dozen crimes. Lampley will be sentenced next month, but according to Pennsylvania law, it mandates a sentence of life without parole for second-degree murder. And that death shook the Edinboro community, both last year and then this following year as well. In light of a guilty verdict, their focus is now on remembering Alex Kavanaugh. Our Kristen Allen has a reaction to the verdict.
22-year-old Alex Kavanaugh died putting others first. According to his obituary, he loved art and was preparing to become a minister.
He had a family and newly married and just a young kid just trying to work.
The Edinboro community was rocked when Marquise Lampley attempted to rob and ultimately shot and killed Kavanaugh while he was working at this Wendy's.
This was through here, I don't know, earlier that day. We come through here quite a bit, so when you hear people doing what he did and being that close, you know, it does hit close to home.
Friday, a jury found Lampley guilty of second-degree murder and 14 other charges after just 1 hour of deliberation.
People here in Edinboro say they'll never forget when Alex Kavanaugh lost his life here at the Edinboro Wendys. They feel like today's second-degree murder verdict was justified.
It's a good verdict. I mean, he killed a kid, man, you know, so I'm happy that he's going away for a little bit.
Thank God.
I'm happy about it.
Yeah, that poor
He
kid.
deserves it.
He deserves
that
it.
Poor kid.
Lampley faces life without the possibility of parole when he's sentenced in August. Many say the punishment definitely fits the crime.
You took a life, you should lose your life.
Yep, I totally agree with that.
Put him away for life. He killed a kid, man. The kid wasn't that old. He had a whole life ahead of him.
While others say life in a cell is just not enough.
You take a life and out of disregard for everything, so, you know, I think he took a life, you know, eye for an eye.
Kristen Allen, Erie News Now.
Turning now to an update, as we have learned that former governor and Erie native Tom Ridge is thanking the community for his support as he recovers from a stroke. Ridge released a statement on Friday thanking the doctors and nurses who've helped him over the last 2 weeks. He says he doesn't know if he'll have any long-term disability, but he's been inspired by the people he's worked with over the years through the National Organization on Disability. To read Ridge's full statement, you can find a link to that on our website, erienewsnow.com. Now turning to some more lighter news today. It is the 4th of July weekend, and there's some important firework laws to keep in mind, especially if you're planning on lighting them off this year. The state ordinance says to set off fireworks, you must be more than 100 feet away from any occupied structure, vehicle, or business. You can't set them off from any building or vehicle either. You also can't set them off in any public or private property without permission from the owner. And lastly, you cannot set them off if you're under the influence or drugs and alcohol. In addition to these guidelines, some local municipalities and county governments have their own set of laws when it comes to fireworks. Let's start out in Mill Creek Township, where the use of consumer fireworks aren't permitted in most of the township because there's a large number of buildings in limited areas. Over in Crawford County in Meadville, the city ordinance states no fireworks of any kind may be sold or set off within city limits. Displays are permitted only with special display permit issued by the municipality. And then right here in the city of Erie, there's essentially no place where fireworks can be set off, also because of buildings and structures being close together. The chief fire inspector for the Erie Fire Department warns us to be very safe this Independence Day weekend. And sticking towards safety, now many people might be wanting to light some of their own fireworks off in their own backyards, but before you do, there's a few things you should be aware of. Darren Hart, the chief fire inspector of the city of Erie, says to let the professionals handle the fireworks, especially those big displays or smaller ones too. But if you do decide to set them off, be aware that you can't always set them off in certain areas. Hart says there's a few things to have on hand if you do decide to light them. He says always have a garden hose or bucket of water nearby. Don't light all the fireworks off at once. Do it all one at a time and separated from each other, and never ever look down a tube, or that could be catastrophic.
66% of all injuries fireworks related happen on 4th of July weekend. So we would just like to, have a safe and happy holiday so that we don't have to do any injury reports.
Certainly good advice there, and we'll have more advice coming up tonight on Erie News Now at 6, especially what you should do if you don't know if you can set off fireworks in your neighborhood or not. And speaking of fireworks, some of the times you might want to head out and check out some of those big displays, and there's a lot of them all throughout the area. Everything from the UPMC Park after the Seawolves game to in Lawrence Park or Edinboro, fireworks will be shown all over Erie, even at the Bayfront. When it comes to fireworks, we have a complete list of where you can see the lights in the sky on our website, erienewsnow.com/fireworks. And Erie's Bayfront will be the site of where many fireworks shows can be displayed, especially tonight with lights over Lake Erie. And it's going to be busy this weekend, and it's perfect timing since the newest restaurant is set to open this weekend, and they're capitalizing on the flood of tourists they're expecting. Pier 6 Rooftop Bar and Restaurant is on the roof of the parking garage near the Marriott. Now, it opened last week, and although it offers indoor seating, it's really the outdoor seating that sets it apart from other restaurants. Owner John Melody says he hopes it will be as successful as his other UPIC 6 locations.
It is stunning. I mean, the views are stunning. The sunsets are beautiful, as we all know in Erie. And, even on what we would call the east deck, at night when the lights are on around the city, it just gives it, gives it another feel. It's really nice to see how it's all come together for us.
Certainly looks like a beautiful view there. And if you don't want to head to the Bayfront this weekend, maybe you want to head to Walmer Park and Waterworld. If you're planning on doing that, make sure you're getting your tickets early. The park is changing some of its policies and strengthening security measures ahead of the holiday weekend. For this weekend only, you must buy tickets in advance online, and you will be screened by security personnel when you enter the park. The park has hired private security officials, and 10 Mill Creek police officers will also be on hand as well. The park owners say he's already had fights and an overdose at Walmer this year, and he's not taking any chances this busy holiday weekend.
The customers that we are getting don't seem to have respect for themselves or other people in the park, and that is just a very sad thing. But we will correct it and we'll work it out. And we are not going to let the rowdies run us out.
And Walmer Park will be open from noon until 7 on Saturday and Sunday. Waterworld opens at 11 a.m. Certainly lots of fun there. Well, that does it for this edition of the Erie News Now Weekend Nowcast. Thanks so much for joining us today. Be sure to tune in to Erie News Now at 6 for the latest news, weather, and sports. Have a great Saturday.